That's a lot. All right, I'm going to be doing all demo. So what we're working on is embedded analytics, and you may know embedded analytics, but what problem are we trying to solve? We're not just trying to put data on the web, although that's a lot of what my company, Bridge AI, does. We're trying to up-level the way that people think about and are able to communicate their product value. The GTM problem we're trying to solve is proving value for customers. So for your customers, for a company's customers. How many people know Clayton Christensen jobs to be done framework? I love this framework. This basically says that you get hired to do a job, a product gets hired to do a job. And when you look at the way most companies report on doing that job to their customers, they report on very operational things. And so you might report how many, a count of how many things were done. Back to the pricing discussion, I think there's a really interesting opportunity in today's moment where we're all doing different kinds of things and pricing it differently to tell customers what kind of value we're actually creating for them. Let me give you an example. We're working with one company that is doing a collections agent to try and help their customers collect dollars faster. You don't actually really care how many invoices got sent. You care if your cash collection cycle is better, if you get more cash at the end of the month, if you can do that with fewer touches from a human or however you do it. But one of the problems in go-to-market is not many people know how to do this. So this is what we're building. We're building a system to help people communicate value. I'll show you a little bit of a demo. This is a fake website. Imagine you're a company that is trying to help property managers figure out where to invest in EV chargers. We're as I said, embedded analytics and trying to solve a couple of the big problems of embedded analytics. The first one was actually performance. So a lot of times customers don't end up looking at the results that a platform has generated because those are in a really bad format that executives don't want to use. And so you end up in your customer success conversations in this really bad loop where you get super tactical people into looking at your product, looking at your analytics, into your QBRs. They ask tactical questions. You end up answering tactical questions. No executive would be caught dead in there. And that's a loop that is destined to fail for your platform because you're not actually communicating the job you're trying to get done. So like I said, performance was one of those big problems. And we solved that. This is one of my first learnings, not with AI. I love AI. I'll show you some AI, but we solved that with browser-based technology and some open source that my co-founder built. And we're basically doing computation in the browser. That's one of the things that I think is a big takeaway in building today is, as amazing as AI is, it's not everything. The other thing that we're trying to do is marry up AI with more traditional experiences. So this is obviously a dashboard, and you'll have folks say, "Hey, you don't need dashboards anymore. Everything will be agentic." Well, at some point, I do think human beings need to interact with something. It doesn't mean all data workflows will have a human in them, but there are data workflows that will have a human in them, and communicating value is one of those workflows. And so part of what we're doing is we're adding a data agent to the dashboard backed by the same data set so that you can actually get to deeper data in the data agent. You can ask questions about this EV data, for example, like how does average range and price compare by make? And you come back and you can kind of see different makes here. Tesla has high range, Porsche has lower range, high price, and all these other in the middle. Another thing that we're doing here is limiting where we use AI, and in this case, it's to generate the SQL, and then we use it to some degree in the validation, but in the actual chart that's generated is heuristics and deterministic, and that's partly because there's a lot of science and research behind how human beings can consume data in the right way, in the best way, I should say, to understand it. And trying to get an agent to parse through all of that and really apply it is really difficult. And so, for example, I asked a different question. You can see I got a different kind of answer, a different view of it, an answer. And again, deterministic on how you communicate the data using AI to set up the query and then to some degree validate and make sure that that query is correct. And we spent quite a bit of time on that. What is deterministic? What is AI? I'll show you one more thing and then I'll take some questions. I mentioned at the beginning, we're trying to help people actually communicate the value of their platform, not just put bar charts and line charts in the product. And so I'll show you a bit about how we do that. This is what we call our build agent. This is the most agentic part of our platform. And basically, when you add some data, could be CSV data, you could be connecting to a database. Think of gold level data. So this isn't, we're not trying to do data exploration where you're spelunking down and doing ETL and DBT kind of stuff. You've got some data, you want to get it out to your customers, you know it shows the value. We actually help, in our build agent, help you drive down to how do you communicate that value? What are you trying to communicate? And the interactions with the users are all at this business level. This is actually one of the biggest problems I think teams have when they're communicating value is they need to get a designer involved and a product manager and an engineering team. And at the end of the day, you end up usually with something pretty tactical or something that was poorly designed. And so we're bringing to bear a lot of that research and so on, and then using the AI for what it's great at to do some planning, bring in different tools and so on, and on the fly make determinations about what kind of questions it wants to ask. Like, for example, here, when I said I want to understand adoption, it came back and said, well, what does that mean to you? And I said, well, that means active users to me. I never had to say, go put this on the X and that and the Y. And then it comes back and it says, okay, well, are you more interested in this or in that? It might, in a different flow, ask me, do you care about time trends or point in time? Do you care about seeing the big elephant in the room, like Tesla and that car data, or do you want to exclude that? So it's got that nice agentic flow to it, and then it does some confirmation and so on, and then builds me basically a dashboard, again using best practice, and then we're doing some traditional things that we know from visual analytics, like letting you move things around, letting you make some changes. Undo and redo is very popular. But that's my big learning in this building is how to break every single one of these things down, not only into is it deterministic or is it agentic, but when it's agentic, how hard is it? So we actually use multiple models, and here are some very cheap, small, fast ones for easy stuff and some bigger ones for harder stuff. That helps us control cost and speed and so on. But that breakdown is a classic thing you do in product and engineering. I don't think that changes. I think the tools that we have at our hands to go take care of that breakdown is very new and different. And then the last thing I'll say is it's not just is it deterministic or is it agentic and the breakdown that hasn't changed. I think that we still have to go back to those frameworks, like what job are we actually doing for our customers, because it is so easy to throw features out there that I think it's important to always remember what are you trying to actually do and really focus there. And that's my tech talk. In the background question? BYOD, bring your own data. BYOD. It's BYOD. We bring the models. You literally put in a data set and start talking about the business value you're creating, obviously guided by our agent. And that's all it takes. Yeah. I'm not sure I understand your question, but I'll try to answer it and tell me if I'm off. We think there's a lot of signal in what people ask. So if you say, hey, I'm going to tell my customers about all this value we have, and you create the story, which is the dashboard, and then obviously there's some answers that they can get out of the data agent, but everyone's asking the same question in the data agent. We want to let our customer, the product company, know that, because there's something that's missing, right? The idea of this format is that there's a big picture and then long tail questions, like all the exploratory questions. If everyone's asking the same thing over there, that's information for your user journey, to your point. I'm not sure if I answered your question. How do you know I have enough data? I think that the company has to have a set of data it wants to share publicly. Like, the company has to, first of all, feel like they're creating value. And secondly, say, hey, hopefully, you know, back to jobs to be done, what value you're trying to create, right? Like, I have a collections agent and it wants to go collect cash for the cash cycle. And there's some kind of value proposition there. the data that you have should be relative to that value proposition.
I guess I mean the company knows how to define like this is good user experience. This is good.
I think I see what you mean. I think, is it a good or a bad user experience? You have to go to outcomes. Like, are you trying to save somebody cash? Again, the job to be done. It's not how many of a thing, but it's like you're trying to save a company cash. You're trying to reduce their sales cycle. You're trying to generate leads. There's some business outcome that I think you have to drive to.
I think that's it.
All right. Thanks, y'all.